Welcome to World History 1 SOL Review for Unit 8, which is the Early Middle Ages. So we're going to start by taking a look at the learning targets for the Early Middle Ages, Unit 8. So you start off with 8.1, which is I can describe characteristics of the Middle Ages with an emphasis on the church. 8.2, I can identify invader and migratory groups in Western Europe. 8.3, I can describe the feudal system and its impact socially, economically, and politically. In 8.4, I can compare Charlemagne to the Roman Empire. So starting off with some characteristics of the Middle Ages. There were three major influences on Middle Age society here. First, you have the influence and the heritage of Greco-Roman, which is Greece and Rome. Then you have Christianity, which plays a major part in the early Middle Ages. And then you have the Germanic invaders. They're the people that took down the Roman Empire in 476, and then throughout all this time, they still have a major influence. Life during the early Middle Ages wasn't that great. There's a constant threat of invasion after the fall of Rome, so there's no big empire in the West left to defend the people of Western Europe. As I just said, there's no unity because there's no empire, and there's no emperor to lead everybody. So everyone's kind of running around without a central power controlling them. There's development of small feudal states and the feudal system, and most people at this time are poor. So the role of the church was pretty big. The Pope was the person in charge of the Catholic Church. So loyalty shifted to the Pope as the emperor falls. So there's no emperor, he's taken out of the throne, there's no Roman Empire anymore, so now the Pope is the head man in Europe. So he takes on many secular roles. So not only does he have the role of religion, but he takes on many worldly roles as well. That's what secular means, worldly. So then there are missionaries who are going out trying to spread religion to these barbaric Germanic tribes. So they're trying to make them more civilized in their thought and spread the religion of Christianity to them. This is also spreading and teaching Latin, as Latin was the common language of the day. So now these Germanic people are beginning to learn Latin. Then there's the emergence of monasteries. They provide communities for people. Monasteries also provided people with education, shelter, and medical treatment. And probably the biggest thing that monasteries did during this time was they preserved Greco-Roman writings in their libraries. They had, as you see here, monks handwriting and copying Greco-Roman works. This helps preserve it and continue to bring it throughout history and bring it into modern days. So there's a couple invaders that you need to know from this time period. The first group are two that go together, the Angles and the Saxons. They invaded England from the mainland of Europe. They also helped to develop England. Then there are the Magyars. They invaded Hungary from Central Asia. And the last group, which most of you may have heard of already, are the Vikings. They invaded Russia from Scandinavia. So with no emperor, people needed a way to protect themselves from these invaders. I just showed you the four groups of invaders that were common at this time. They were running in and out of Europe, and people were constantly fearing them coming in. So they decided to turn to a new system to earn protection. They formed feudal states that had two major systems on it. The first one was feudalism, and then there was the manor system. So feudalism is a system of government involving land and protection. So in the feudal system, or in feudalism, lords lived on the king's land, but needed protection. A vassal then offered a lord protection in exchange for land, which was a fief. Okay, a vassal, or the most common vassal, was usually a knight, someone you would think of as offering protection. They swore an oath to the lord, which they called an homage. The manor system was the economic system of the time. So lords and vassals lived on a self-sufficient manor. Okay, self-sufficient meaning the manor had everything that it needed right on the manor. People rarely had to travel outside the manor to get something that they needed. So as I just mentioned, it was the economic system of the time. So serfs, who were the peasants of the time, worked the land in exchange for a home. So they would do all the farming that you see over here in exchange for somewhere to live. And as I've mentioned already, manors could do everything for themselves. Okay? Everything that was needed by anybody on the manor was somewhere on the manor. You can see here they have a barn, they have a mill, they have all the farming land, they have a church. You don't have to go anywhere that's not on the manor. So together, the feudal system and the manor system combine to create a rigid class structure. So feudalism incorporated a clearly defined class structure, with each class having specific powers and duties. It was in the form of a hierarchy. Okay? Individuals were born into their class, meaning it was hereditary, meaning whatever your parents were is what you were. And you rarely had opportunities to move up or down in this class. So the system here, as you see down at the bottom, are peasants. Okay? The peasants of this time were serfs. Then above them were the knights, who were also lords or vassals. Then above them you have the nobles or church officials. Then at the top, or just above them, you have kings. And then at the very top, you have the Pope. In Western Europe, the Pope was in charge of all the kings. Okay, so lastly here, we have the Franks. They're an example of a successful invader group. What they did is they tried to create an empire that was similar to Rome. Okay, so the Roman Empire had been gone for a couple hundred years at this point, and they're trying to create an empire that can match what Rome once had. So the main leaders were King Clovis. He's important because he was the first Christian Frank. Then after him came Charles Martel. He's important because he defeated the Islamic forces at Tours. Okay, the Battle of Tours is important because that is what stopped Muslim expansion into Western Europe. And then comes Charlemagne, this main figure over here. He was the greatest of the Frankish leaders. So, as I said, Charlemagne was the greatest of the Frankish leaders. He ruled the Franks during what could be considered a golden age for them. The reasons why it can be considered a golden age for them is that he reunited much of Western Europe. Okay, you have a picture of his empire over here, and you see how much area he controlled. He practiced Christianity, and he spoke Latin. Two things that were well known in the Roman Empire, and two things that made his empire more Roman. He was also crowned Roman Empire by the Pope, which you see down here. On Christmas Day 800, Pope Leo III crowned him Roman Emperor. Okay, this signifies a combination of church power with empire power, and also leads to him being more in line with a Roman emperor. So he dies 14 years after being crowned emperor. And then his empire goes to his son, who was not a great ruler. And then his son breaks up his empire and gives it to what are Charlemagne's three grandsons. This proved to be a poor decision, as Charlemagne's grandsons fought each other for power, and his empire was broken up.